China is blocking Meta's acquisition of AI startup Manus, intensifying scrutiny of US investments in its tech sector amid escalating geopolitical tensions. For more, I'm joined by Dr. Karen Sutherland from the University of the Sunshine Coast. Great to see you as always. What is the significance of China's decision here?
It could be for a range of things. It could be what some experts are touting as China wanting to keep its talent and technology in the country, because that's where Manus actually began. Or it might be a concern around this whole data issue as well, because now Manus is being owned by an American company. They've actually shut their doors in China and moved to Singapore, I believe. And yeah, they're actually setting up shop there. So I think it could be a range of things, but there's always that competition between the US and China in terms of the AI race.
A tip for tat for TikTok?
Maybe. That's actually a good call. I just think Manus is a great tool. Have you ever used Manus as an AI tool?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's an agent and it's great. It can go off and do tasks for you. I use it a lot for desk research, but you can use it for so many other things than that. I only use it for a tiny part of what it can actually do. And so now Meta's trying to embed it. I'm not sure if you've been on Facebook recently. Whenever you do a post, Facebook has reimagined your post and is getting you to try and actually write it through Manus, which I wouldn't personally use it for that, but yeah, but they're trying to integrate it.
You're the only person I know who's still posting on Facebook, by the way. So talk to us about how the action reflects the current geopolitical tensions between the US and China, because obviously there's been a lot of anger between the two nations about the US demanding that China essentially hand over TikTok from ByteDance, and the reason for that being the exact concerns that you've just raised here that China now has against Meta acquiring Manus, which is data and security. And this obviously could go on because all of the tech companies are global companies.
Oh, absolutely. And particularly in AI, because China and the US are just constantly trying to beat each other in terms of this technological evolution. And there was a time where US even blocked NVIDIA chips and things like that from China, and there's all sorts of backstory that's been going on so that they can actually come out on top. So the countries are really vying for that, and I'm sure they're really trying to get to that stage of AGI and want to be the first, because I think the country that does that is going to have considerable leverage over the others.
They're all very much in a rush, aren't they, to try and get there? But talk about the concerns that China has about the acquisitions of Chinese AI companies. And is it different to the fact that if you are in China, you don't have access to some of the big American platforms? Does this go a step further?
Yeah, possibly. You're right in that, because social platforms are very much banned. Many of them are banned in China. So having a Western tool, a Western platform now own a Chinese AI tool, yes, it could. Yeah, I guess there is a lot of fear around that and what that would mean for its citizens as well. But yeah, it's really hard to say at this stage the true reasons behind it, but a lot of experts are saying a lot of it is around sort of the IP, and it's around losing talent and those sorts of things from the country.
It feels like wishful thinking by Meta in the first place, given everything happening in the world, that they would be able to go and buy a Chinese AI company, when, as we know, the way the Chinese regime operates is that every company is part of the regime here too.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it even happened. I was surprised and I wasn't surprised, because Meta has a history of acquiring companies that they think are worthwhile, sure, like Instagram and WhatsApp and those sorts of companies. And so it wasn't a surprise, but it was a surprise that it was that particular company.
Yeah, all right, let's move on, because Meta and Microsoft are making significant layoffs, cutting thousands of jobs as they pivot towards AI-driven efficiency, highlighting a growing trend in the tech industry. This is a fascinating one. It feels like every week there is a report that Meta is slashing jobs. Were they just overly optimistic post the pandemic that they were going to go down the metaverse path and then the AI path? And now we understand that many of the people that they're cutting are actually part of the AI teams.
Yeah, it really is. It seems to be like a mass liquidation of staff. And I think there's lots of things at play here. Yes, I think they really did hire a lot of people around to support the metaverse, and also around COVID too, because more people were online and using Meta products. But then, yes, with this AI, it seems like, and this is a trend among quite a few big companies and big tech companies, they're actually cutting staff to support their investment in AI, which is almost like once that happens, will they then have the AI to replace even more staff? So it's going to be interesting to see the next year or two what actually happens with that, because there are stories of other companies who've slashed their workforce and replaced with AI, and then now they realise that wasn't a great idea and they've had to get people back. So
I always wonder, though, whether that is just an opportunity to get rid of the bottom 10% without making waves. Instead of saying we're getting rid of the bad performers, we're getting rid of people because of AI, and then a few months later we're rehiring again, trying to get the strong performers from other companies with even higher pay, which seems to be the way. Do you think that they're also trying to send a message to other companies that this is the future, that the tech companies themselves, the whole of the NASDAQ and all of these investors are investing in stocks in the belief that they will save corporates money? Are they trying to send a message that, hey, look at us, we're the tech companies and we can do without these staff, so therefore you can too?
Yeah, possibly. It seems to be like a cascade, doesn't it, where the companies who are actually making the tech, the ones who lead the way in terms of that sort of thing. And I think with the rise of autonomous AI agents as well, a lot of companies are now testing those out just to see how much they can actually do on their own without human oversight. There'll still need to be human oversight, but yeah, it's interesting to see just how much will actually be able to be performed by agents rather than relying on a whole team of humans to do the same tasks.
It's interesting because when we talk about the same tasks, I'd love to know exactly what the tasks are. When we hear about mass layoffs for AI, I tell you what, I use AI a lot. I know you do too. But without my involvement, I would hate to know where it goes and what it comes up with, because at least 50% of the time, it's just not accurate, can't be used, and you do need a human involved. So I wonder how they're able to get rid of staff because of AI. Is it things like Claude Code, for example, helping the coding team, and therefore they don't need as many coders? Do we actually know who's being impacted, what sort of roles within these companies?
I think code is absolutely, because even the experts in the field have said that they don't even really do much code anymore. They correct it and they look at it, but they're not actually doing the coding themselves. And there's also those entry-level roles which rely on sort of basic tasks like desk research and like writing certain things, so lower level tasks that you do when you first come in as a junior before when you're actually learning the ropes. I think a lot of those are going to actually go, unfortunately.
And I guess Meta's internal memo suggesting about the firm's future direction, because as I say, every week at the moment, it feels like Meta is sending some sort of announcement to staff, say we're cutting jobs here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not only them cutting jobs, they're also not hiring anyone new either. So it's going to be interesting to see just how many people they do end up with. I'm not sure if you heard of that guy. He runs like a multi-million-dollar company and it's just him. So I wonder if people are going to try and companies are going to try and just be as lean as possible